Rob Reiner was a brilliant actor and director. His wife, Michele Reiner, was an equally iconic photographer and producer. Their loss is beyond tragic. These charges will be 2 counts of first-degree murder with the special circumstance of multiple murders. These charges carry a maximum sentence of life in prison without the possibility of parole or the death penalty.
The death penalty is a possibility for Nick Reiner, but will the district attorney pursue it? The son of famed director Rob Reiner and his wife Michele, now charged with first-degree murder. Plus, a manhunt this morning for the Brown University shooting suspect. Investigators releasing brand new video timelines and new images days after the shooting that killed 2 students and injured others on campus. Also this hour, we're going back 15 years when the Gilgo 4 were first discovered just before Christmas. We're taking you to the stretch of sand where the alleged serial killer Rex Heuermann buried the bodies. That's the accusation. And is teenager Sarah Grace Patrick insane? Well, she's accused of murder, and her defense team is calling a neuropsychologist at her upcoming trial. What's that expert going to say? And could it tip the scales? It's all coming up next for you right here on Opening Statements. Good Wednesday morning to you. Welcome to Opening Statements. I'm Julie Grant. Are you ready for some coffee and some court? It's that time where we get you all warmed up and ready to go for the big day ahead on Court TV Live. So let's start it off as we always do. I'll have you grab that cup of coffee. It's time for my opening statement. Model or defendant? If you just glance at the photos from Luigi Mangioni's court hearing on Tuesday, you might think that it's a photo shoot rather than a court proceeding. He's all dressed up in a pressed white shirt and a sharp tailored gray suit, and he's seen gesturing towards the camera with his hands as if to signal not so close. And then he leans in and he poses for the next shot, leaning forward, smiling, turning his head to perhaps get the best angle for the photographer. Sure, he's a nice-looking guy, but he's also a murder defendant. This guy that so many people in America are in love with is accused of premeditating and murdering another man in cold blood. This is criminal court, not GQ magazine. There shouldn't be smiling when somebody is murdered. That is messed up. Much of the public perception in this case is messed up. There's so little focus on the man who was murdered. You rarely see pictures of Brian Thompson. Let's not forget, he was a human being who had a right to live. The holiday season must be extra hard for his family and especially for the children that he's left behind. So I say, let's wish them comfort and peace as they continue mourning the loss of their loved one. And let's remember that justice for him is really what this case is all about. That's my opening statement. Let me know if you like it. Right now, it's time for your daily docket.
This is a case of choices. Choices made by the defendant. Choices that had bad outcomes. Choices that the defendant now needs to be held accountable for.
Her conduct was criminally negligent, but there is no implied malice in this case. And this is definitely not second-degree murder.
In California, was it murder or was it manslaughter? Well, we're on verdict to watch in the murder trial of Maya Hernandez. The jury's deliberated for about 2.5 hours so far. They're set to start up the deliberations today around noon Eastern time, so we'll keep you posted on that. In Florida, we've got the stepmother of teenager Anna Kepner in court for more of her custody hearing. Anna Kepner was found dead on a Carnival cruise ship. Her brother is a suspect in her murder, according to family court filings. That begins at 2:30 p.m. Eastern time. And in Ohio, we've got testimony resuming at 9 a.m. in the murder trial of Paul Hicks. This guy is accused of murdering his estranged wife, Regina, 24 years after she was found dead in a pond. This case is going to trial. It was a cold case, but investigators say they have finally solved it. We will see if the jury agrees. Right now, let's turn to your top story on this Wednesday morning as alleged killer Nick Reiner might face the death penalty. First, though, he's got to be arraigned. We now expect him to be in court today. That is our understanding. He's accused of brutally murdering his parents, Hollywood director Rob Reiner and his wife, photographer and producer Michele Reiner. LA County District Attorney Nathan Hochman announced the charges on Tuesday.
These charges will be 2 counts of first-degree murder with the special circumstance of multiple murders. He also faces a special allegation that he personally used a dangerous and deadly weapon, that being a knife. These charges carry a maximum sentence of life in prison without the possibility of parole or the death penalty. No decision at this point has been made with respect to the death penalty.
Now, Nick Reiner did not appear in court on Tuesday because he wasn't medically cleared. He's hired defense attorney Alan Jackson to represent him. So let's talk about what comes next and the reaction in Hollywood. Let's bring in our guests. I have with me writer and podcast host Zach Peter and criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor Franz Borghardt. Good morning to you both. Franz, let me begin with you. The death penalty, it's an option. Do you think DA Hochman is going to seek it?
I think it's a little early. We don't know enough about the accused to determine whether or not it would be appropriate. And let me say this, the aggravators, the elements necessary for the death penalty are present, but there may be some information about this defendant that may lead the DA to say, hey, we don't want to waste a lot of time, energy, and effort on something that may not come to fruition later. The other piece is what surviving family members are giving input on that. Is it siblings? So I think it's a little early. Now, one school of thought is you seek the death penalty because it gives you leverage to possibly work a plea later. So it remains to be seen, but I'd say it's very early. The other side of this, though, is he's got a very good defense attorney now, and that will come into play on this.
Yeah, all great points, Franz. Zach, I want to turn to you now and show you some video. This was obtained by the New York Post. It shows Nick Reiner strolling through a gas station near his parents' home. It's time-stamped at midnight on Sunday night. We know that this was before the bodies were discovered, but in terms of when the homicides occurred, law enforcement has not definitively said in their timeline of events. Perhaps they're still working that out, but here we see him here. Zach, what more are you hearing out in Hollywood about Nick Reiner and about him perhaps being troubled?
Yeah, we have, former friends that have now started to speak out. I believe I saw an article in Page 6 this morning. And we have interviews with even Rob Reiner back in as recent as September, where he's talking about how his son was in a much better place considering all of his addiction issues that we've seen in the past. But it seems like over the last couple of weeks, he's become a bit more erratic. I'm hearing that he got into 2 tense exchanges at the Conan O'Brien party. One of them was with comedian Bill Hader from the SNL fame. He had a tense exchange with him, and that was right before getting into an argument with his parents. So it seems at least over the past couple of days, there was some erratic behavior that his parents were also expressing concerns with at the party, which, it's troubling to hear that last we had heard he was in a much better place, but it seems recently he may have fallen off the wagon.
Yeah, it's so sad, Zach. And I'm sure you saw the reaction from a slew of Hollywood icons putting out a statement. Billy Crystal, Larry David, Martin Short, Albert Brooks, all honoring Rob Reiner and Michele Reiner. Zach, what do you think that means to the members of the Reiner family and the friend circle that are just, grieving so much? What do you think it means to see so much support all around the country just flooding in for this couple?
Yeah, I mean, I think fans overwhelmingly have been incredibly supportive, but then even seeing, I know Billy Crystal and Larry David have been very involved in supporting the family and supporting the kids at this time. Jane Fonda, I saw, also released a statement. She saw the Reiners that night at the party as well. I know the Obamas said that they were supposed to see the Reiners over the weekend and unfortunately didn't get an opportunity to. So I think, you know, throughout Hollywood and just even online right now, we're just seeing kind of this sentiment of, you know, remembering the Reiners, remembering Rob, the films that he produced and directed and starred in, and just, you know, also having a, you know, really reflective moment of the relationship that we watched between Rob and Nick over the years, even dating back to, you know, the 2010s when they released Being Charlie together. And we got to really see more of that relationship as Nick started to step into the spotlight. So it's a really sad time, but I'm hopefully, with the reaction on social media and the number of celebs that have, you know, known the Reiners for a long time that have released statements, I'm hoping that the family's finding some sort of comfort in that.
Yes, well said, Zach. Franz, let me turn to you on the possibility that we could see Nick Reiner being arraigned today. As you know, it was postponed yesterday because he wasn't medically cleared. We saw his counsel. Many wondered if he would have counsel, and he did that early. Attorney Alan Jackson, who we have seen before on various cases. He was there in the courtroom and explained that he wouldn't be available for arraignment, but we're hearing that he may have been cleared. There's some reporting out there. Court TV is working to confirm some of what we're hearing, that he might be arraigned this morning. Franz, tell me, you know, in terms of the psychology, the evaluations, all that, is it too early to really know what frame of mind he might have been in at the time of this incident in question?
So, you know, the joke is always there's only one way to mess up an arraignment, and that's to plead something other than not guilty, right? That arraignment's just set up for that. And you can always modify that plea of not guilty to not guilty by reason of insanity. You can always file a motion for competency if he's not able to assist himself and counsel and understand what's going on. I think that this individual probably has an extensive medical history with regard to some of the demons he's fought. I think that I would be surprised to see some kind of not guilty by reason of insanity plea as of today or in the very near future, until such time that his team has everything lined up. It's going to create, if that happens, that will also create some mechanisms in the legal system that have to happen that will kind of delay the process. That said, those mental health records, the materials that's going to be collected, let's not mince words, those are the same materials that you're going to give the prosecutor for mitigation to try to get the death penalty off the table. So it's a two birds, one stone kind of scenario. I would not expect to see not guilty by reason of insanity today if he's arraigned. I think it will be straight not guilty.
We appreciate that insight, Franz. It's very helpful. We thank you both so much for weighing in. Zach Peter, check out his podcast, No Filter with Zach Peter. Franz Borchardt, I know we'll see you on Court TV very soon as well. Thank you both kindly. We'll hit a break. When we come back, here's what's next on Opening Statements.
We're asking the public to ensure that they can see them. They can see here that you want to focus on the body movements, the way the person moved their arms, the body posture, the way they carry the weight.
The Brown University shooting suspect still on the loose this morning. And now police are asking the public to help take a look at these new images. We'll dig in deep next. And we're talking about the Gilgo Beach murders. We know they gripped the nation. Several of the bodies discovered right around this time of year, the holidays. We've got two experts on the case joining us live this morning.
Coming soon to Court TV.
A Microsoft executive gunned down. Now his ex and her new husband are charged with his murder.
I'm gonna kill her.
An alleged murder plot involving a family's au pair and the married father she worked for.
A social media sensation, now a suspected killer.
Why do you have something against me?
She wrote a children's book about her husband's death. Now she's accused of killing him.
The high-stakes trials you don't want to miss. Coming soon, only on Court TV.
Thanks for staying with us. The person of interest in the shooting at Brown University remains on the run this morning, and police are now using some new images and piecing together a new timeline. So many connected to the Ivy League University are still reeling, as we know, as these larger questions remain about this shooter's motivation, identity. We know this shooter took the lives of 2 students and wounded 9 others. Court TV crime and justice correspondent Matt Johnson is on the ground in Rhode Island with the latest.
Police are following up on more than 200 leads as the search for the school shooter intensifies.
It makes me scared to want to go outside in the first place, but I just have errands I know I need to run, but otherwise I really haven't left my apartment.
A major police presence on the campus of Brown University in Providence, Rhode Island, following the deadly school shooting. Investigators releasing new enhanced video of a person of interest, a man described approximately 5'8" with a stocky build, who police believe was casing the area up to a week prior. And now investigators asking for the public's help.
We're asking the public to look, if you have any camera systems or any Teslas, like I mentioned, that you look at that footage and that you can reach out to us and please provide us anything that you have. And the reason for that is because on Saturday night, the day off, we actually learned that this individual was in that neighborhood at around 10:30 in the morning.
On Saturday, the gunman walked into the Boris and Holly Engineering building and shot 11 people, killing 2 students, Ella Cook and Muhammad Aziz Amorzokov. 9 others injured. A motive for the shooting is still unknown, or if the shooter had any ties to Brown University. Meanwhile, a memorial on campus for the victims continues to grow.
We understand that as time goes on, there is maybe a natural instinct to assign responsibility for a tragic event like this. Anxiety and fear is very natural, but the shooter is responsible.
There's a $50,000 cash reward leading to an arrest. That's the very latest from Brown University in Providence, Rhode Island. Matt Johnson, Court TV.
All right, our thanks to Matt Johnson. Here's a look at the updated timeline of the suspect's potential route. Surveillance video the FBI posted online before it was removed showed a person in dark clothing walking along multiple sidewalks for about an hour, starting shortly after 2 p.m. This is in just a few blocks of the shooting location. This morning, we're wondering, how could a timeline perhaps help catch the Brown University shooting suspect? Let's bring in our guests. I want to welcome in retired NYPD and Nassau County Police Lieutenant Mike Gould and the creator and the host of the show Road Patrol Live, John DePietro. Good morning to you both. John, I'll begin with you. As you were doing excellent reporting over the weekend as this broke, and you've been on the ground there. Tell us a little bit about what you're hearing, any insight coming in about this route and this timeline investigators are trying to create.
Julie, they can't figure out who this guy is, and people need to understand where the building is located. Brown University, it's kind of like a city campus. You have other places like Harvard's kind of like that, BU, but it's the building's right on the fringe of the campus. And people need to understand that when he exited that building, it's not as if he went over, across the quad where the dorms are. He was then essentially on the city street. Right across from where that building is, it's a regular neighborhood. So it's very unusual. He's walking around and he's looking for cameras. He's very, very cautious. Authorities are hoping to get some kind of video footage where maybe he brought his mask down a little bit. But right now, they cannot figure out who is this guy? Why was he walking around for so long? They are hoping to start to extend the circle. So they started right there at ground zero, and then they want to start to move out and maybe get some of his movements. But Julie, what people need to understand was this investigation, to me, it really kicked off on Monday. Saturday, it was total chaos. You had a campus full of students. They had to evacuate the students. They thought he was still around. Are there other victims? So I left there at 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning, and they were still evacuating people. As of right now, they need a tip from the public for someone to recognize who this individual is.
Yes, let's hope that happens, John. Thanks. Lieutenant Gould, let me turn to you. From the law enforcement perspective, how do you run this search? How should this be run to capture this guy?
Right. Well, as John said, this is chaotic. Mike Tyson said everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. So law enforcement, let's face it, Providence only had 2 or 3 homicides left this year. So they don't have a great deal of experience with this. They're doing the best they can. As far as no cameras, I understand that this building was on the perimeter of the campus, but still they talked about an old building and a new building, and the old building doesn't have cameras. Whether the building's old or not, it still should be equipped with cameras. As far as apprehending him, I'm certain he is going to be apprehended. I think just based on what we have now is that two-tone jacket. Once they really zone in on that, find out who the manufacturer is, that will certainly be circumstantial evidence when he is arrested. His height, 5'8", guess what? The average height of American men is 5'8", so that's not really. So he's got some kind of unusual. They'll get it together, but I think they were thrown off their feet, and organizing this for a relatively inexperienced police agency is tough.
Right, Lieutenant. We know authorities are asking the public for help. Any footage they may have, if anybody was taking cell phone video, anything. They released some brand new images. We're going to ask everybody to come to your television, take a look.
As you can see, there are enhanced photos, there's enhanced video footage. And so we're asking the public to ensure that they can see them. They can see here that you want to focus on the body movements, the way the person moved their arms, the body posture, the way they carry their weight. I think those are important movement patterns that may help you identify this individual, which is.
Investigators also shared they provided no indication that they were any closer on IDing him, so we don't know even who this person is. They're asking for the public's patience as well as they work to get that ID, and they're really leaning on the public. Are these images going to do it, though? That's what we want to know. Are these images going to break the case? Lieutenant, what do you say when you look at these?
No, singularly, these images, I don't think, like I said, there's some chance this person might not even be local, so it might not be somebody that they see frequently in or around the campus or in the community. So they're going to come up with other technological footprints, digital footprints for sure. And I'm sure they're working on that diligently right now. So there's no doubt in my mind that'll be apprehended. The public is aware. I always say this, and I'm not minimizing this, but this is an event that takes place monthly in New York City, right? There's multiple shootings everywhere in New York City. So I don't take it lightly, but again, there's 35,000 police officers in New York City compared to 400 in Providence. So they're going to be stretched in trying to solve this, put it all together. But they do have the FBI is going to be really key to their technological devices and advancements in investigating. They're going to be key to this investigation.
Certainly, Lieutenant. John DePietro, back to you. Tell me, what's the sentiment there? You work there on the ground, you're filming your show, Road Patrol Live. Are people you're running into daily just on edge? I would imagine this is terrifying.
It's panic, but I just want to put for context for Lieutenant, that is true. It was a record low, only 2 homicides. But years past, they've had 25 homicides, 30 homicides. Providence police are actually very experienced. But this is, and it is true about New York City, but what's unusual about this, Julie, is I would almost akin to like the pipe bomber. It's a lone wolf. This person suddenly just emerges. Look how long it took. He's very, very cautious. He's looking around. He's looking for cameras. But the Providence police, this is a tough one. Most of the time when I've covered different cases, they have an idea of who they're looking for. Now it's a matter of tracking them down. But make no mistake about it, huge law enforcement presence. FBI does have a big presence here, but this is a tough one because of where this individual landed. They had the false start over the weekend where they thought they had someone, a person of interest that was detained. And so you also have the weather factoring. You have a college campus. They have their own police force. This is a challenging one. The biggest break they need right now is for someone to say, I think I know who that is, and they just haven't gotten that tip.
Exactly, John. Boy, we're on edge here. Let's hope that this person is apprehended, and let's hope that closure is brought in terms of at least an arrest, and then everything else will follow. A great insight from you two, as always. John DePietro, Mike Gould, much thanks. Still ahead here on opening statements.
Sarah has a huge heart. She is loving, protective, and deeply rooted in her faith. Hurting someone simply isn't in her nature or character.
Is accused killer Sarah Grace Patrick insane? We've got our own psychology expert on the show to weigh in. Plus, a serial killer in the Gilgo Beach area. We're talking about accused killer Rex Heuermann and the many bodies found along the stretch of sand.
All these pine barrens at nighttime are a great place to dump a body.
Welcome back. Just before Christmas in 2010, the remains of 4 women are discovered near Gilgo Beach on Long Island, New York. But that was just the tip of the iceberg, as more victims of a presumed serial killer would then turn up. So what's Gilgo Beach like? Lieutenant Mike Gould takes us there.
Mike Gould here. I'm down here at infamous Gilgo Beach, the area where the bodies have been, the 11 bodies have been discovered, the Rex Heuermann case, and now the Dykes case. And you'll see that it's an area at nighttime. It's has been a notorious dumping ground for the organized crime figures. Of course, it's away from the New York City. It's only 10 miles from New York City, 10 miles from the population.
Since 2010, the remains of 11 women have turned up in that area, and years have passed before any arrests. And then in July of 2023, police arrested New York architect Rex Heuermann. He's now accused of the murders of 7 women and has pleaded not guilty. Imagine all those families enduring countless holidays without their loved ones, not knowing what happened to them. Let's talk about this. Let's bring in Lieutenant Mike Gould and also welcome in the editor-in-chief of the Long Island Press, Tim Bolger. Good morning to you both. Tim, I'll start with you. You were covering the Gilgo Beach case since the first bodies were discovered. Would you mind taking us back to when the first 4 bodies were found?
Yeah, it was similar conditions as it is today. It was a snowy December. I think we had just had our first snow while they were making the grid search down there at the beach, and one of our reporters had down there while the search was going on, but it was too soon, so we had to go back the following morning, and we were among the press that were there when then Commissioner Richard Dormer had first confirmed that he suspected that the obvious, what everybody believed, that the 4 sets of remains found so close together were likely the work of a serial killer.
Right, Tim. It's eerie, and things got even eerier, as we know, as time passed. Lieutenant, we loved what you were able to show us when you went to the area, and this is an area you're so familiar with. You served in Nassau County and in New York County. Tell us, what's it like there? What's it like, when you're there on the ground and you're seeing everything firsthand?
Right, Julie. Yeah, so I patrolled that area for 10 years. That barrier island was part of the precinct I was in, as was Rex Heuermann's house where he lived. And he's only about a mile from there as the crow flies. But you used the word eerie. Nighttime, it's eerie. Daytime, it's beautiful. When the sun sets, very little electricity, at least back then. It's very desolate. You can see headlights coming from a mile away. So as I've said, this has been a notorious dumping ground for all kinds of homicides. And this particular, I'm certain there's many, many more. Finding human remains is like finding a needle in a haystack, especially as time goes on. So it's eerie, it's desolate. And as I said, you could sit there, you could park with your headlights off, and you can see a car coming from a mile away. There's only 3 major access points, 3 bridges that go onto this barrier island. So, yeah, it's creepy. and it is an ideal place. The proximity to New York City, you don't have to go upstate. You can just drive out to Fire Island and dump a body if that's your proclivity.
Mm-hmm. Right, Lieutenant. We know you're great at what you do in law enforcement, but we were very impressed with the video you took. We're about to hire you as a reporter. That was excellent seeing you there, and just the way you were describing it. It's like, yeah, this makes some sense that bodies would be put there, and so many bodies. It was almost hard to get our heads around this when this news kept breaking, and I want to talk to you, Tim, about this individual named Andrew Dykes, who we understand was arrested in connection with the deaths of a woman and her daughter, remains found on Gilgo Beach in 2011. What bearing do you think this has on the case against Rex Heuermann?
Yeah, that one was, the most recent development in this case, and it certainly, I think, took a lot of people by surprise, because I think there's a lot of people out there who believed that all of the remains found along the stretch of the Parkway during the investigation that started 15 years ago there was, the work of Rex Heuermann. And, there were similar, at least from a layman's perspective, what you could see that's publicly available, it looked like there was some, a similar MO involved with the attempts to evade capture by, the way he disposed of the bodies in these cases. But then to see that the two of these victims were there's somebody else accused, and it's two victims whose remains were found on opposite ends of the Parkway, where Heuermann's remains were found, in the middle. It definitely was, I think, unexpected for some people who were of the mind that, Rex must have been involved in all of them. So it was, I think, a shocking development in the case. And we're still waiting for him to be extradited from Tampa back to New York to face those charges. So we're, patiently waiting for more information on that development.
Right, Tim. This is helpful insights you're sharing. We wonder if attorney Michael J. Brown, who represents Rex Heuermann, may do something with this. Who knows what kind of doubts may be cast now on the strength of the evidence in the Heuermann case with this other arrest. We'll see. I have a clip, speaking of Michael J. Brown, I have a clip from the courtroom where he's representing his client, Rex Heuermann. This was last year, and this was a moment. Tim, Lieutenant, I know you both will remember this when Rex Heuermann spoke up to the court, said he's not guilty. Take a look.
I know he's extremely frustrated. He has said from day one he is not responsible for these murders. He is, from day one, he wanted his day in court. So, no, he indicated, I expected him to say something lower level, but he obviously wanted to address the court, so he did.
Okay, so Michael J. Brown reacting to what many reacted to in the courtroom with Rex Heuermann, speaking up. Lieutenant, in terms of the strength of the case against Rex Heuermann, would really appreciate your insights, thoughts on this. Do you think that prosecutors have a strong case against him?
Yeah, Julie, certainly for some of them, maybe not all, it's hard to say. And we talk about these human remains being scavenger animals move these remains around. So it's very difficult to actually identify the actual site of where a crime may have been committed. But to answer your question, there's a lot of digital evidence. There's a lot of evidence here. And ironically, what makes this area so good or a place to dump bodies, it's also where we train our police dogs. We train cadaver dogs there, so there's a certain irony to this, that because of you could get away from the major population. So it's a great place to train dogs, and therefore it's also a great place to dispose of bodies. I think Rex Heuermann will be found certainly guilty of certain things, but maybe not all. Now, this new case throws a curveball into it, and Michael Brown's an excellent attorney, so he'll leverage this as best he can.
Yeah, well said, Lieutenant. He really is. I tell him whenever he comes on this show, I say the best thing Rex Heuermann has going for him is you, Michael J. Brown. Great insight and analysis from you both. We'll leave it here for now. Lieutenant Mike Gould, thank you kindly. Thank you for going to the location, sharing those videos with us. And Tim Bolger, again, the editor-in-chief of the Long Island Press. Great reporting from the inception of this case till now. You know, really appreciate it. Look forward to seeing more of your reporting as the cases progress. We'll see you both soon.
Thank you for having me.
Coming up next here on Opening Statements, here's what we've got.
We're still kind of putting all the pieces of the puzzle together, but I can tell you what led us here today, and that's the evidence that Sarah killed her parents. Who knows what's going on in a young person's mind like that?
So what was going on in the mind of Sarah Grace Patrick? Was she insane? At the time, she's said to have murdered her parents. We got our own psychology expert on the show to weigh in. It is the season for true crime. Each morning, we'll dive into a case that took place around the holidays. Join us for the 12 days of holiday crimes.
Opening Statements with Julie Grant. Mornings at 8/7 Central on Court TV.
I'm Vinny Politan. Welcome to Closing Arguments.
What's happening here?
It's unreal. Let me show you exactly what happened.
Closing Arguments with Vinny Politan. Tonight at 8/7 Central. Only on Court TV.
If the defendant can kill her own parents in such a violent manner, I fear for my own safety and the safety of my family and friends.
A shocking double homicide rocking a small Georgia community. Could an expert witness tip the scales of justice for the defendant? 17-year-old Sarah Grace Patrick was back in court on Tuesday. Her trial set to begin on January 5th. Both parties discussed possible hurdles, including a pending evaluation from a neuropsychologist. The defense team intends to call that expert during the trial, but said on Tuesday that the expert's report won't come in until a few days before trial. Well, back in August, friends and family faced off over the good and bad of Sarah Grace.
Hurting someone simply isn't in her nature or character. Over the years, I have held her through moments of deep pain and tears, and through it all, her love to her family, especially her siblings, Jaylee and Donnie, has remained unwavering. She would never do anything to harm them. She wants only to protect them.
I trusted Sarah, and I loved her like a sister. Why would she do this to me? And why would she hurt everyone like this? I don't understand why someone would do this, but I know it is not right. My dad and Kristen didn't deserve this. No one does. And I don't think someone who could do something like this should be allowed to go free right now.
Now, it's important to know that after the homicides occurred, Sarah Grace Patrick went to TikTok and was actively reaching out to content creators, trying to seemingly garner sympathy and support and get her story out there. Some experts that we've had on this program believe that perhaps she was trying to socially engineer the public opinion about the case. Remember, she's the one who called 911 to report it, gave a eulogy. But police say she's in fact the person that killed them. That's the allegation. So what's going on with her? Was she suffering from something at the time, didn't know right from wrong? Or is she a little psychopath? What do you think? Let's bring in psychotherapist and the CEO of Life Counseling Solutions, Dr. Janie Lacey. Good morning, Dr. Janie. Nice to see you as always. Would love your take on this. And I want to start, we know you haven't personally evaluated her, but tell us what's standing out to you as you evaluate the facts that are public about this young lady.
So what stands out to me, Julie, I first asked that question that everyone's asking, was she insane? But, you know, when I think about it from a clinical sense, meaning does she have a mental illness? I would say possibly, right? So when we think about adolescents in particular who come from homes where there's domestic violence, there's drug exposure and chronic instability, we can see even at the age of 16, there's emerging personality pathology. They develop attachment disorders. They have trauma responses. So all of those things are possible. But, you know, if I was to, look at from a legally insane point of view, based on what we know publicly, I would say that that's a very difficult argument to make, because I think a couple things. She calls 911. She posted grief videos, as you mentioned, for months. She reached out to true crime influencers and said about the coverage is going to be a big hit. So, and commenting on video. So all of this stuff to me, and even planning her funeral, her parents' funeral, and delivering the eulogy, to me, this suggests a person who was cognitively intact and aware of the consequences. And when we think about engaging in calculated behavior, to me, that's not insanity. That's something completely different. But Julie, what I would also share is that what strikes me about this case is the family history, right? Sarah's parents had a contentious divorce when she was 11. There was allegations of drug use, I believe, and exposure to meth. There was an incident where her stepfather accused her mother of trying to run him over. So Sarah herself told police as an 11-year-old that she felt unsafe. So what we know, Julie, is that when a child grows up in chaos, and we know from research that adverse childhood experiences, what we call ACEs, are strongly correlated with later mental health problems, emotional dysregulation, and yes, even violent behavior, Julie. But trauma is an explanation, not an excuse.
Yes. Boy, I could listen to you all day, Dr. Jane. I really could talk about this. Digging in a little bit deeper, if you don't mind, please. Something, we notice when we see her in these various hearings, there have been a lot of tears. And she looks kind of like a basket case, and some may find it, easy to sympathize with her and question whether she did it. I mean, her own grandfather believes strongly in her innocence and has spoken to us and said there's no way she could have done this. That being said, police worked this case very carefully. They didn't jump to conclusions. We know it was many months before they firmly said she's the one that committed these homicides. Is it possible that someone can act with no remorse at one point in time? We know she was very, collected, to a degree, calm enough to deliver a eulogy in front of a lot of people. But then months later, she's in court and things are getting real for her. She's breaking down. I guess what I'm asking is it possible that, she could exhibit one behavior at one time and then a kind of a different face at another time?
Yeah, absolutely, Julie. When we think about children, there's millions of children that grow up in difficult circumstances, but they do not kill their parents. So I think while her trauma history is very relevant, it doesn't necessarily mean that there's insanity, for example. But what I would suggest is that when we look at trauma-related disorders like PTSD, complex PTSD, or developmental trauma disorder, given her childhood, this would not be surprising that one moment we're seeing emotions, another moment she's not seeing it. We're not seeing any type of emotions, because potentially with what we know, the evidence in this case and what we know about childhood trauma, is there could be emerging personality disorder, right? And we could potentially, that's what we're seeing, because at 16, we can't formally diagnose most personality disorders, but you can identify the traits, antisocial traits, borderline traits, narcissistic traits. Any of these could be present. So as I'm watching and seeing the emerging of different responses, these are the types of things that I think about when we think about executive functioning and impulse control, especially for a 16-year-old, because we know that their prefrontal cortex governs judgment, and impulse control is still being developed at this age, Julie.
Wow. This is just so sad. And her younger sister, I think of her, she was the one who found the bodies of her parents, and so, I mean, if Sarah Grace did this and if she let her little sister find them, that is just cruel beyond cruel. We'll continue following this one. Again, January 5th is the date set for trial. So after we get through the holidays, that's going to be a huge case, as you know. Dr. Janie Lacey, of course, we want you back for analysis when this case rolls around, if not sooner. Thank you so much, and happy holidays to you and your family.
Thank you, Julie.
And friends at home, that's it for opening statements. We're so glad you were spending your morning with us.